Okay, so the Red Dawn remake stars Thor, as well as the male lead from the Hunger Games. This, of course, was a remake of the classic 1984 movie. Now, the opening to this actually is pretty decent. They show lots of the political tensions between the United States and North Korea and things of that nature. That actually worked out pretty well from that aspect. So, in the original, it was the Russians had taken over. In this one, it's the North Koreans with help from the Russians. They really don't go into a lot of detail as to how they did it, except for the fact that they used what ends up being a large EMP device and knocked out all communications. So, just like in Star Wars Episode 1, once you lose communications is how you know they're planning for an invasion. So, Thor is a Marine who has come home for a while. His younger brother is, of course, the high school quarterback who's dating the cheerleader. So right away you know those two are pretty stock characters. And then all of a sudden, they kind of go out, and then the next day, the United States is taken over. Most larger cities were taken out with technical explosives, and most smaller cities were taken over by large armed military. So then you have a small group led by a single Marine who goes through the process of then training this ragtag group of essentially high schoolers to become a small guerrilla fighting force, using guerrilla tactics, using the terrain to their advantage, using lots of the fact that there's a lot of people, they don't know who these, we'll call them insurgents or terrorists, freedom fighters, whatever term you want to use, because they're all somewhat interchangeable depending on which side you're on. So it's a lot of guerrilla-style tactics. It's a lot of finding out what they're doing, and then constantly doing weapons upgrades. The first weapons they get are kind of like street lethal. Not as impressive as what you need to take on the military. So then over time, they take out some of the military people, get some of their weapons, start using those against them. This movie, it's a shade under 2 hours, and it does kind of plot along, especially towards the end, because, in the first 20 minutes, that's when they've lost, and America's been taken over. And then a little bit of training here and there, but I never really felt like I cared about any character with the exception of Thor. Beyond that, I was kind of like, eh. Everyone else felt really, really disposable with the exception of him, which is kind of ironic as the movie plays out. All in all, not a bad movie. It's a decent remake. It works well as an action film, but really doesn't work anything beyond that. Beyond Hemsworth, it seems like almost everyone else they had in that movie, and Morgan. Beyond that, there really didn't seem to be almost any charisma. Like, people were just sleepwalking through the roles.